I couldn't hear you either. So first time you were not connected, Mataji. I was able to hear others on the call.
I disconnected and I went back again.
Yeah. So let's see. Is it saying that we are here? Is anyone able to see on Facebook? Anybody's close to Facebook? I need to check on that. Yeah, we are. That is very good. And we will get started after these brief prayers to the Special Master. Just give me a second here while I offer my obeisances to those who are joining us here on Facebook. I'm going to close this. We don't need it now. Or maybe we do. Just give me a second. Who joined us on the call?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. So, yeah, we're just getting started here. I just want to make sure that my video is muted here. Okay. So we have Garima. We also have Namas. They are here today. Fantastic. Okay. So this is good. Let us get going here after these short prayers to the Special Master. Om Ajnanatimarandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Welcome, dear devotees, to our class on the Bhagavad-gita, where we go and touch upon the Bhagavatam also. So we will get started with the words. And if somebody can tell me that what words are we doing today?
4.21.
4.21 says Vashana Mataji, and she is right for 500 points. Okay, so let's bring up Bhagavad-gita, chapter number 4 and verse number 21. And I'll start sharing with that momentarily. And let me know if you're able to see my screen over here. So I am sharing my screen, and welcome Archana Mataji to the call here. Chapter number 4 of Bhagavad-gita. And what is that called? Chapter number 4 of Bhagavad-gita?
Transcendental knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge. Exactly right. Okay. So we had yesterday and a few weeks before, we have said that we were talking about one who sees inaction in action. And action and inaction is intelligent among men. And he is in the transcendental position, although he could be engaged in all sorts of any kind and any sorts of activities, right? And then Krishna continued on. He said that you are in full knowledge when any endeavor that you do, any work that you do doesn't have a tinge of sense gratification in it. Sense gratification for our senses. Atmindriya priti, as we talked that, right? And so then they said that, he could be working, but the karmic reactions that would have normally ensued because of his carrying out those activities, those karmic reactions get burned down. Why? In the fire of his knowledge, because he knows whatever he's doing it for Krishna. He could be going and killing people as Arjuna did, right? But Arjuna did not get the karmic reactions for doing that. And so in the last verse, we had said that abandoning all attachment to the results of his activity. So that's very, very important. That we need to make sure that whatever activity we are doing, we don't get attached to those results. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings, right? So one of the formula also is that while you're doing your work, don't focus on the results. And that also, then you don't get attached. If you're attached to the results, then you get attached to the karmic reactions also. Then having got that kind of understanding, right? What that my every endeavor should be devoid of any desire for sense gratification, right? And that I should not have any attachments to the results, right? So these two things. Then today's verse is going to talk about that, how does that person who's got this understanding, how did that person act? Okay. So nirashir yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. Nirashir yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. Nirashi yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvam napnoti kilbhisham. So what this particular verse is saying to us here is nirashihi. Nirashihi means without desire for the result. Yata is controlled. Chit atma, mind and intelligence. Tyakta, giving up. Sarva, all. Parigraha, sense of proprietorship over possessions. Parigraha. Shariram, in keeping the body and the soul together. Kevalam, only. Karma, work. Kurvan, doing. Na, never. Apnoti, does acquire. Kilbisham, sinful reactions. So what does the translation say? By translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It says that such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by the sinful reactions. Purport by Srila Prabhupada again. A Krishna-conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is the part and he knows that because he's the part and parcel of the Supreme, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna-conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna-conscious man maintains himself by his work, just to remain fit for action in transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reactions of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animals in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna-conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to falsely possess any material object. For maintaining body and soul, he does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not therefore become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. Hari Om. That's it. Okay. So interesting verse, very, very powerful. And welcome, Veera Mataji, to the call here. Thank you for joining. And
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
That time I was just logging in, so I could not reply that time. So
No
Hare Krishna
problem.
to you and to all the devotees as well.
Hare Krishna. So, so what it's saying over here is that let's look at the words here, right? Nirashihi, without desire for the results. Yata is controlled. Chittatma, mind and intelligence. Tyakta, giving up. Sarva, all. Parigraha, sense of proprietorship over possessions. Shariram, in keeping body and soul together. Kevalam, only. Karma, work. Kurvan, doing. Na, never. Apnoti, does acquire. Kilvisham is sinful reactions. So any word from here that stuck your mind today, from these new words that we are looking at?
Yes, Mataji, Nirashiha.
Nirashihi, right? Nirashihi.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you call it Nirashaha, right? Because I want to point out the difference between Nirash and Nirashihi, right? So Nirash, what the Nirash word we used in many languages, definitely in Hindi we use that, right? So Varshana Mataji, when we use the word Nirash, what do you think?
Udasi, sadness.
There's sadness, and why is there sadness? So Tapa, are you trying to say something?
There is no support, Nirash.
Nirash means it's a Bengali word too, Mataji. So when we tell Nirash means we expected something, but it did not happen, or we did not get that. Suppose we applied for a job and I expected that, oh, definitely I'm going to get the job, but I did not. So that time we will be sad or something.
Disappointment.
Yes.
Disappointed.
Yes.
Right. So yeah. And then so that is nirash. So I just wanted to point out the fact that this is a different word. This is not nirash. This is not disappointment that we are talking about. We are talking about nir-ashihi. Nir means without, and ashihi, like without any desire.
Desire.
Right? Without any desire.
So Mataji, that means without any hope of the result when you work is nirashi?
Without any desire. There's a difference between desire and hope.
Without any hope. Okay.
Without any desire. Desire that I want and I want. Right? The hope could be, that I won't get it. I can desire to have anything. Right? But then there's hope that supports it there, right? So without desire for the result. Now here's the interesting thing, that if you are nirashihi, that is, if you are a person who is without desire for the result, then the chances of you being nirash will be less, right? If you become nirashi, right? So the interesting thing is that it's not that, and like I said, that desires will be there. The soul will desire. What is desire? Desire is a thought. And we saw that last time. And welcome, Parul, to the call. Happy to see you. So we will desire because the mind is a factory of, what does the factory produce?
Thoughts.
Bananas? Buns? Thoughts. Okay, good. Yeah, so it creates thoughts, right? So it's a factor of thought. It will create thought, and desire is a thought. Do you agree? Desire is a thought?
Yes.
Right? Right.
Yeah,
so there's a thought, it will desire. Yeah. So it's not that you can get away with all the desires. You can stop desiring. It's our nature to desire. And all that we have to do is to dovetail those desires with Krishna. Right. And that is what brings in the transcendental aspect to your actions, and then you won't be right. So nirashihi means without desire for the result. Now, here's the interesting thing about a desire is that desire will come, right? But the problem is that then we start focusing on the result of that, whether I'm going to get it or not, right? So, or a thought comes and, you want to take action, and then we start focusing on the result of it. And that is when, we go crazy. Talking about focusing of the result, I'll bring that up soon, but I see a hand raised here. So Tapa Mataji is asking a question.
Mataji, that means desire and expectation. So is both same?
Not necessarily. Desire is I want, right? Expectation is a subset of a desire where you are expecting something to happen from the other side, right? From the other person. I'm expecting good behavior. The teacher expects students won't make noise. Teacher expects students will do the homework, right? So that usually comes from the other side,
Yeah,
you're receiving the results of whatever you're expecting. There's always a second party that is involved in the expectation. For the desires, it's not necessarily the second party will be involved. I might just desire to go to sleep, right? No, I don't need any help. I can just go to sleep, right? Especially in the mornings, like that. So nirashi, that if you become without desire for the results, and then focusing on the results. And this is a funny story. I'm just bringing it to lighten the atmosphere here a little bit. And so there was this young girl, she was a milkmaid. And so she used to milk the cows and then put them in pitchers on the top of her head, one filled with milk, another on top of it, another on the top of it. And she would walk to the other village, and then she would sell it. Milk, then get some money. And then, so one day the cows gave some extra milk. So she had, instead of the 3 that she used to put on the top, she had 4 parts on the top. And as she's walking to the village, next village to go and sell the milk. So she's just thinking on the way that I've got 4, parts of milk with me today. And so I will be able to make extra money. And then it's like, okay, I'll make the extra money. And then, so see how the results are being focused on? And she says, okay, now what will I do with the money that I get? She says, oh, fine, I will go and get some nice makeup. I'll buy some nice sari. And then what will you do? Well, I'll wear that nice sari when I go to sell the milk again. And here's where the expectation comes in, and that I'm expecting that the cow will give extra milk tomorrow also, right? So I'll have 4 of them. So this way I'll get extra money every time that I go, and then I will soon become very rich. And when I become very rich, then I will be able to afford some golden jewelry also. So with my nice sari, I will put on nice jewelry, and I will go there. And guess what? I will look so beautiful that the men of the next village will be after me. And they will, and that handsome guy there, he's going to come and say, like, will you marry me? And I will say, no. And as she said no, all the pots from her head fell down and they were smashed to pieces. So if you focus on the result too much, I just wanted to bring this up just to lighten the atmosphere because it's a serious subject that we are talking about, right? And we are actually trained right from the young age to focus on the results, right? And we kind of forget the godly angle to everything. Sadly, that has gone out of our civilization, and we kind of just focus on sense gratification, left, right, and center. Is that what you do, right? So Nirashi, what they're saying is that you don't desire any of the results, and it's amazing. It's such a amazing peace of mind that you get from just from not desiring things, not desiring the results of it. And so there is such an interesting story from the Srimad Bhagavatam about the desires, right? And let me find that story for you. And so we'll just go through that. And we have done this story many times, but nevertheless, it's such a powerful story, so it never hurts to read it again. Okay. Just one second. I have found it. Yeah. Okay. So sharing the screen. Am I sharing? Not yet. Right? Oh, I'm already sharing. Okay. Very good. So this is Prithu Maharaj's story. King Prithu's 100 heart sacrifices, right? And remember, King Prithu is the son of Manu. Manu had 5 kids, 3 daughters and 2 sons, right? 3 daughters were Prasuti, Akuti, and Devaki. And the sons were Prithu is one, and the second is 2 very famous sons. Here we are. Manu's sons. Swayambhuva Manu's sons.
Swayambhuva Manu.
Uttanpad, right? Whose son is? Uttanpad's son is who? Very famous personality.
Dhruv Maharaj.
Dhruv Maharaj, exactly right, for 500 points. Yeah, okay. So Uttanpad's son is, so this is uncle. He's Dhruv Maharaj's uncle, King Prithu, right? So Maitreya Muni is telling this story to Vidura. He says that King Prithu initiated the performance of 100 horse sacrifices at the spot where the river Saraswati flows towards the east. This piece of land is known as Dhammavarta, and it was controlled by Swayambhuva Manu. When the most powerful Indra, the king of heaven, saw this, he considered the fact that King Prithu was going to exceed him in fruitive activities. Now, this yajna that he was performing, it's 100 horse sacrifices, the Ashwamedha yajna, he's going to do that. And anybody who performs 100 such Ashwamedha yajnas becomes qualified to become a what? For which position after 100 horse sacrifices?
Indra.
Indra's position, exactly, right? So Indra, who's holding this position right now as the king of all the demigods, he's looking at this and now he's getting worried that he's going to replace me. And it happens to us also all the time, right? So when the most powerful king, the king of heaven, saw this, he considered the fact that King Prithu was going to exceed him in fruitive activities. So such an important thing about this Bhagavatam is that, we might just think that, oh, people are doing yajnas, And the moment we think about the word yajna, we are devotees, we might think it is God. You're doing everything for God. Not necessarily that we are doing this for God. We could be doing this for ourselves. We are just trying to bribe the demigods, and then we go extend even further, and then we try to bribe God himself, right? And we do it all the time. God, you will do this, I will do that. The Satyanarayan Katha, right? You save my son-in-law, I will go donate money. You save this, I will, get my head shaven, and all those kinds of bargaining. So we keep on bargaining with the Lord. And so anyway, so Indra could not tolerate the great sacrificial ceremonies performed by King Prithu. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is present in everyone's heart as a super soul. Evidence. Can you give me a verse from Bhagavad-gita where he's saying, I'm situated in everyone's heart as a super soul?
Chapter
15.
All right, huh? Which one? Say that. Half part of it is correct.
15.15, Mataji.
Yes, exactly right. Yes, 15.15. Sarvasya jaham hiti sannivishto matta smite jnanam apurvanam cha. So the first line is Sarvasya jaham hiti sannivishto, right? I am situated in everyone's heart. Right? So Lord Vishnu is present in everyone's heart as the super soul. And it's so much fun, right? To be reading Bhagavatam and to connect it with Bhagavad Gita. Right?
Yeah.
So this is how you gain expertise in the Shastras. And he's the proprietor of all planets and enjoyer of the results of all the sacrifices. Okay, this is a difficult one. He's the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Can you give me a verse in the evidence for this? He's the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. All.
Bhoktaram yagya tapasam.
Very
Bhoktaram
good.
yagya
Very good.
tapasam.
Yes. From the 5th chapter. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka
Sarvaloke Maheshwaram
Maheshwaram
Sarva
Suhrit sarvabhutan
Surdam Tanam Yatva Mam Shanti Mrichyati.
Right? So yeah, I'm the proprietor, right? And he's a proprietor of all the planets. Loka, right? Bhoktaram yagatasam, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. So Sarva Loka Maheshwaram means that he is the proprietor, he's a controller. Because he's a proprietor, he's able to control it. I'll just pause over here because I see a hand raised by Meera Mataji. Meera Mataji, is there a question there?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everybody. What is horse sacrifice? I've never heard of that.
Ashwamedh Yagya? Well, Ashwamedh Yagya, maybe you didn't pay attention, but you know about it, right? Like Love and Kush, when we hear about Ramayana, we hear about Ashwamedh Yagya. Mm-hmm. So what happens in Ashwamedh Yagya is that the kings will do this Yagya, right? So one Ashwamedh Yagya will involve that you sit down at one place and then you are doing some sacrifices. So there'll be brahmanas and all that. There will be charity. Those kind of things will happen, right? For days. And then simultaneously with that, what also happens is that there will be a white horse. I think it's a white horse. And it doesn't matter. It's a horse. And so that horse will be then walking over the land, right? And as it comes into another kingdom, which is not governed by this king, then if that other king doesn't say anything, doesn't retaliate, and just accuses and says, okay, I'm going to be our subordinate, and that's fine, right? Otherwise, you have to fight. So behind this Ashwa is also the whole army that is going behind, right? So this way, this Ashwa is going to go all over the world. So once you can conquer that and you defeat everybody, then you become the emperor of this world, like that, right? So if you do 100 such Ashwamedh Yagyas, and then of course what happens is after this war is over, like the Ashwa has gone all over the place and has come back, then this horse is sacrificed. They will cut off the head. And if you watch some of the television serials on Ramayana, etc., you will notice that they say Kaushalya doing that, cutting off. So Kshatranis will do that. So this horse's head is cut off, and then people might be abhorred at the thought of this, that, here was a horse that you used for 1 year, and poor thing, it comes back home, and what do? You chop off the head, right? So it appears to be such a cruel thing that they're doing, and what kind of a religion is that supports this thing, right? So Prabhupada explains that, and he says that what happens to this when a horse is sacrificed like that, what body does he get in the next birth? He gets
Probably a
human
Human
body,
body.
right? Human body. So although from one angle it might look like to be a very bad thing, a vikarma that you're doing, right? But on the other hand, what we're doing is that we are giving the soul an opportunity. We're giving the soul an opportunity to get a human body, and which means that we are giving the soul an opportunity to perform devotional service. Because what devotional service will it perform in the body of a horse, right? Not much that it can do. So anyway, so there were 100 horse sacrifices that they do, and they're very expensive. I mean, to do one Ashwamedha Yagya is kind of like $1 billion of money goes, because there's this huge army that follows, right? For so many days, you have to feed the army. They need the weapons. They need the place to stay. Plus, here all this yagya is happening, so there'll be ghee and fruits and grains, all that is going, and then charity. You'll be giving charity to the brahmanas. So it's an involved process there. And yeah, so does that answer your question, Meerawati?
Yes, I wasn't too sure if the horse was killed or not. Actually, I thought that was horrible, but now that you have explained, yeah.
Yeah. So for these nuances, we need inputs from the acharya, right? Otherwise, this Bhagavad-gita is available. Even online, it is available right now. Anybody can point to it and say, I can read it. But we cannot read it without the help of the acharyas for us to guide us, bring the context, connect things together, present it in our terms of reference, according to our time, place, and circumstance. And then we get that, right?
Mm.
So yeah, so going back to our Prithu Maharaj and the sacrificial arena there. So Indra could not tolerate the great sacrificial ceremonies performed by King Prithu. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is present in everyone's heart as a super soul, and he's a proprietor of all planets and enjoyer of all the results of sacrifice. He was personally present at the sacrifices made by King Prithu. When Lord Vishnu appeared in the sacrificial arena, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the chief predominating deities of every planet, as well as their followers, came with him. When he appeared on the scene, the residents of Gandharva Loka, the great sages, and the residents of Apsara Loka all praised him. The Lord was accompanied by the residents of Siddhaloka and Vidyadhar Loka, and all the descendants of Diti. And there's the two sisters, right? Diti and Aditi. So from Diti, you get the demons. And from Aditi, you get the Devtas. And so Ditis and the demons, and which is basically her sons, and the Yakshas. He was also accompanied by his chief associates, headed by Sunanda and Nanda. Great devotees who are always engaged in the service of Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as the great sages named Kapil, Narad, and Dattatreya, and the masters of mist powers, headed by Shaunak Kumar, all attended the great sacrifice with Lord Vishnu. My dear Vidura, in that great sacrifice, the entire land came to be like the milk-producing Kamdhenu, and thus by the performance of Yagya, all daily necessities for life were supplied. The flowing rivers supplied all kinds of tastes, sweet, pungent, sour, etc. And the big trees supplied fruit and honey in abundance. The cows, having eaten sufficient green grass, supplied profuse quantities of milk, curd, clarified butter, and similar other necessities. King Prithu was presented with various gifts from general populace and predominating deities of all planets. So you can just imagine how powerful King Prithu is, right? I mean, deities from all the other planets are coming and giving him gifts. And so one thing I just wanted to point out is the context and the timeline in which this is happening, right? So this is a story from Satyuga. And in Satyuga, interplanetary travel was allowed. So people could travel from one planet to another planet. And that's why, the Devtas who live in the Surlokas and the Danavas who live in the Asurlokas or the Patal Lokas and all that, they could go from one planet to another planet, fight, like that. So when the king is good and the king keeps Vishnu happy, we see that the oceans and seas were full of valuable jewels and pearls, and the hills were full of chemicals and fertilizers. 4 kinds of edibles were produced profusely. What are the 4 kinds of edibles? Four kinds of edibles. We talked about them.
Chewing, licking.
Say that again.
Mataji, chewing, licking, and then swallowing and
drinking. Drink, yeah, swallowing or drinking. So those that are chewed, those that you drink, those that you lick, and those that you suck. right? So 4 kinds of eatables. So all those, which kind of covers everything, right? Everything that we eat gets covered by these 4 kinds. So eatables are 4 kinds. So those 4 kinds of edibles were produced profusely. King Prithu was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is also known as Adhokshaja. Because King Prithu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So it's an interesting word. His name Adhokshaja has come. Right? So what this basically means is that the word Adhokshaja is actually referring to the Sanskrit alphabet itself, which starts with A, right? And then it'll end with Kshatrigya, like that, right? Sha. So all these various lines, those of you who are familiar with Hindi, you know that the line that starts with Pa, like Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, Ma, is known as Pavar, you know, then Tavar, then like that, right? Kavar, like that. So last one is Kshatriyagya. So the last one is Ksha. So Adhoksha means starting from A all the way up to Ksha, which means that you've covered all the lines in the Sanskrit alphabet. That person who still cannot be described completely, even if you start using all the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, you know, that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So his name, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is also known as Adhokshaja, right? So that's one meaning of that. And second thing is that Adhokshaja is also one who cannot be gauged or sensed or understood by our mundane or material senses. Okay, so he's beyond the material. Because King Prithu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. King Prithu's opulence, however, could not be tolerated by the king of heaven, Indra, who tried to impede the progress of his opulence. When Prithu Maharaj was performing the last horse sacrifice, so Ashwamegha Yagya, right? Horse sacrifice, Ashwamegha. Ashwa means horse. So then last means that he has got 100. Right? So he's completed 99 and he's 100. Now, in which game is the figure 100 very popular? Very important. In which game?
Cricket, Mataji.
In cricket, exactly, right? So I remember when I was young, I used to watch cricket profusely a lot. And so in our times, our cricket captain was Ajit Wadekar. I don't know how many of you were even born at that time. But anyway, Ajit Wadekar was one, and he was a very good batsman. He used to, bat, like, they're bowlers, they're batsmen. So he used to bat very nicely. And he was a good batsman, but he was what is known as 99 nervous. That is, he would reach up to 99, and as he was trying to make the 100th run, he would get, bowled or, short run or whatever it was, like he was 99 nervous. So it's a big thing. It's a big thing in our head. These figures are in our head that I need to have. I need to reach 100. So he's at 99, and then now there's King Indra. He's getting all worked up, like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's going to become 100. He's going to take my position, right? So King Indra, invisible to everyone. So now King Indra, remember, he's a devotee of the Lord. He's a king of the demigods. He has got mystic powers. So he can make himself invisible, right? And which is that's nothing godly, nothing very spiritual about it. And there is nothing devotional in making yourself invisible. So we have to understand this also. And that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is known as the Amal Puran, because it will tell you very clearly, what is material and what is not material. So this is clearly on the top itself. It said, this sacrifice was happening for material gains and material, prosperity. So he's there and he's invisible. He can make himself invisible, which is purely a material act, right? You have the gross body and you are able to, do something to your gross body so that it's not able to be visible to others. So he stole the horse intended for sacrifice. He did this because of his great envy of Prithu Maharaj. So you can see how envy can drive you to such extreme extent. And why? Because you're focusing just on the result. I want to make sure that I get to enjoy my position as the king of all the demigods. So by hook or by crook, I will do everything in my power to make sure that nobody touches me. So now when King Indra was taking away the horse, how did he come? He dressed himself to appear as a liberated person. Actually, this dress was a form of cheating, for it falsely created an impression of religion. And Prabhupada tells us in his purpose that, he was the founder acharya of irreligion. And in this way, from this act of Indra, which happens so soon, happens in Satyuga itself, is that this concept of using religion and cheating people is born from this act of Arjuna, right? And nowadays you see there are so many sannyasis you do not know. They are sannyasis today, tomorrow you find that they are in the jail for doing this and that, right? So this was a form of cheating. When Indra went into outer space, he's able to travel, like I said, the great sage Atri saw him and he understood the whole situation. So when the son of King Prithu was informed by Atri of King Indra's trick, he immediately became very angry and followed Indra to kill him, calling, wait, right? They're all Kshatriyas. So King Indra was fraudulently dressed as a sannyasi, having knotted his hair on his head and smeared ashes all over his body. Upon seeing such dress, the son of Prithu considered Indra a religious man and pious sannyasi. Therefore, he did not release his arrows, right? Where also do we see that somebody does not want to release his arrows at somebody who is to be respected?
Arjuna.
Arjuna, right? In the Bhagavad-gita, right? So he says,
on Bhishma Pitama, he never wanted.
Yeah, he didn't want to kill Bhishma Pitama, right? So he therefore did not release his arrows. And so when Atri Muni saw that the son of King Prithu did not kill Indra but returned deceived by him, Atri Muni again instructed him to kill the heavenly king because he thought that Indra had become the lowliest of all demigods due to his impeding the execution of King Prithu's sacrifice. Being thus informed, the grandson of King Vena immediately began to follow Indra, who was fleeing through the sky in great haste. He was very angry with him and he chased him just as the king of the vultures chased Ravana. Who is the king of the vultures who chased Ravana?
Jatayu.
Jatayu. Good. Right. So this is why a devotee association is important, because as you stay in devotee association, you'll come across these words. These words will consistently fall in your head, and then these answers will come very easily and very quickly to you, right? When Indra saw that the son of Prithu was chasing him, he immediately abandoned his false dress and left the horse. Indeed, he disappeared from that very spot, and the great hero, the son of Maharaj Prithu, returned the horse to his father's sacrificial arena. My dear Lord Vidura, when the great sages observed the wonderful prowess of the son of King Prithu, they all agreed to give him the name Vijitaswa. So, my dear Vidura, Indra, being the king of heaven and very powerful, immediately brought a dense darkness upon the sacrificial arena. This is also another mystic opulence, right? That you can do these kind of things to the atmosphere. Covering the whole scene in this way, he again took away the horse, which was chained with golden shackles near the wooden instruments where animals were sacrificed. So which just means that this is the 100th yajna that he's doing, about to conclude. The horse has already gone all over the world and one is there now ready to be sacrificed, which is the ultimate of this yajna, right? And now you steal the horse. But also look at the opulence. To conduct one, like I said, one Ashwamedh Yagya is like $1 billion. And look at the shackles. Look at the golden shackles. I mean, these days for us, just to buy a thin chain of gold is a back-breaking exercise. What to talk of shackles, putting shackles on your horse, which are golden, right? By the way, Keshav Bharati Maharaj Prabhu had come to the temple and he was reading from one of the books, and where it was written that Krishna's cows that he used to go to herd, they used to wear jewelry on the necklaces on their neck, and then, necklace on the head and things like that. And there was so much of gold that each cow was wearing about $75,000 worth of gold. So, and then you can imagine he had many, many millions of cows. So you can imagine how opulent India was. And that is why it was known as, 5,000 years ago, that's why it was known as the Soneki Chidiya, bird of gold, So he brings about a dense darkness on the sacrificial arena. Covering the whole scene in this way, he again took away the horse, which was chained with gold shackles. The great sage Atri again pointed out to the son of King Prithu that Indra was fleeing through the sky, the great hero, the son of Prithu, chased him again. But when he saw that Indra was carrying in his hand a staff with a skull on the top and was again wearing the dress of a sannyasi, he still chose not to kill him. So look at the upbringing that he has, right? That, he knows that this guy is doing it, but because he's wearing a sannyasi, I will not kill him. I won't incur that sin upon myself. When the great sage Atri gave him directions, the son of King Prithu became very angry and placed an arrow on his bow. Upon seeing this, King Indra immediately abandoned the false dress of the sannyasi and, giving up the horse, made himself invisible. Right? So then the great hero Vijitashva, the son of King Prithu, again took the horse and returned to his father's sacrificial arena. Since that time, certain men with a poor fund of knowledge have adopted the dress of a false sannyasi. It was King Indra who introduced this. See, right? When whatever forms Indra assumed as a mendicant became his desire, because of his desire to seize the horse, were symbols of atheistic philosophy, right? There's no godliness there at all, right? Atheistic. In this way, King Indra, in order to steal the horse from Prithu's sacrifice, adopted several orders of sannyas. Some sannyasis go naked, and sometimes they wear red garments and pass under the name of Kapalika. These are simply symbolic representations of the sinful activities. These so-called sannyasis are very much appreciated by sinful men because they are all godless atheists and very expert in putting forward arguments and reasons to support their cause. We must know, however, that they were only passing as adherents of religion and are not so influential. Unfortunately, bewildered persons accept them as religious, and being attracted to them, they spoil their life. Maharaj Prithu, who was celebrated as very powerful, immediately took up his bow and arrows and prepared to kill King Indra himself, because Indra had introduced such irregular sannyasa order, right? So now, move it aside, son, I'm going to come here, says the father. When the priest and all the others saw Maharaj Prithu very angry and prepared to kill Indra, they requested him, "O great soul, do not kill him, for only sacrificial animals can be killed in a sacrifice." Such are the directions given by the Shastras. Dear king, Indra's powers are already reduced. Now look at this. This is very, very important. King Indra's powers are already reduced due to his attempt to impede the execution of your sacrifice. So, and the same goes about the mystic powers also, that mystic powers have to be constantly maintained like a bank balance, right? Today you are a millionaire and you withdraw some $100,000 to buy a car, then you have to, to remain a millionaire, you have to deplete it. You have to replenish your bank again and put the $100,000 back for you to be in that position. Similarly, when these so-called mystic yogis, they are performing, meditation and prayers, etc., and they get these mystic powers. So what they get is, tejas, they get that power to be able to do these kinds of, beyond the material kind, not exactly beyond the material, but beyond the normal kind of activities, like they can fly, right? They can become invisible, right? They can bring in darkness like that. So those kind of activities. So every time you perform such activity, your part of Sukriti decreases in size. Right? So every time, and so they are also able to curse, right? So the curse, every time they curse, the curse is going to become, is going to manifest because of the power that you had, but your part of power again diminishes. So we have to remember that they have to constantly replenish that thing to keep on doing it. So here, King Indra's powers are already reduced due to his attempt to impede the execution of your sacrifice, right? Doing this, doing that. We shall call him by Vedic mantras, which were never used before, and certainly he will come. Thus, by the power of a mantra, we will cast him into the fire because he is your enemy. So now all the priests are in support of King Prithu and they are ready to kill Indra. My dear Vidura, after giving king this advice, the priest who had been engaged in performing the sacrifice called for Indra, the king of heaven, in a mood of great anger, right? So they invoke him. When they were just ready to put the oblation in the fire, Lord Brahma appeared on the scene and forbade them to start the sacrifice. Lord Brahma addressed them thus: "My dear sacrificial performers, you cannot kill Indra, the king of heavens. It is not your duty." It's very important, right? What is my duty and what is not my duty? You have to understand that. Just because you are angry, right? You are in this mood of anger, as they said, right? when in the mood of anger, they'll say, we will invoke Indra by the power of a mantra, he will come here, right? That's not what your duty is. You should know that Indra is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Amazing statement. After knowing all about Indra and after just reading his narrations here comes this bold statement from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and which is kind of like so mind-boggling. But then Srimad Bhagavatam is mind-boggling, and Srimad Bhagavatam is not along the normal line of thinking that we have. For example, normally we think that there are elderly people or the older people will teach the younger people, right? But then we have Prahlad Maharaj, right, who was teaching his father. The opposite, right? Completely opposite like that. And or we might say that, human beings do prayers to the Lord, but then we have Gajendra, right, who was offering prayers to the Lord, who's an elephant. And then, or we say that you have to be at a certain age to be able to perform and, devotional practice, engage in devotional practice, and to find God, you have to be at a certain age. But Dhruv Maharaj was 5 years old when Krishna came to him, right? So Bhagavatam is kind of like, very opposite of what we would normally think happens or what happens normally around our world, like that, right? So now here he's saying that Indra is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, he is one of the most powerful assistants of the Personality of Godhead. You are trying to satisfy all the demigods by the performance of this yajna, but you should know that all these demigods are but part and parcels of Indra, the king of heaven. How then can you kill him in this great sacrifice? Right? Interesting thing here. I'll pause here. Take the hand that is risen there. Archana Mataji, or you? Is there a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah, a quick question, Mataji. Like, I don't remember the verse, but it's mentioned the king of, King Prathu's son, who is Vijitswa, he's the grandson of Vena. So
Vena.
Vena. So he's not the grandson of Swambhu Manu, because you said Prathu Maharaj is Manu's son. So I'm just confused here. So I thought, let me ask you.
That's an interesting point, but we'll talk about that.
Sure.
How Prithu Maharaj is born, actually,
Okay.
Yeah, and you are right. I take back my words. The brother of Uttanpad, a very good point that you bring, and thank you for correcting me. The brother
no,
of
Mataji,
Uttanpad is
nothing.
Priyavrata. Yeah, is Priyavrata, right? And this Prithu Maharaj actually comes through Angai. This Prithu Maharaj is actually coming in the lineage of Uttanpad only. He's coming from Dhruv Maharaj's lineage. Yeah, Dhruv Maharaj, Veena, Anga, like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. I always get confused between the two P's there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Good point. Yeah. So, so he gives him that advice, and he's saying that you should know that Indra is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So yeah, and so we are just saying that he's one of the powerful assistants of the Personality of Godhead. But why should we think Indra is as good as the Personality of Godhead? What is our mood when we make this statement that Indra is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why would we say that?
Because he's the devotee of the Lord. Pure devotee of the Lord.
Exactly right. Because he's a pure devotee of the Lord. Yes, because he's a pure devotee of the Lord. And what does Krishna like? More than we worshipping the Lord, he likes it when we take care of the devotee of the Lord. Right? And why do you think Krishna likes it more when we serve his devotees than serving Krishna himself? Why does Krishna like that? Now, that tendency is there in us also. That tendency is there in us also. For example, if I come and do something for Varshana Mataji, right? She'll be happy. She might be pleased, right? And if I tell her that I flew and met her daughter and did something for her daughter, she'll be even more pleased. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's nature. We see that we are doing it. But Krishna, why does Krishna like it much better that we serve his devotees? And how much far removed? Like, give me examples of Krishna's devotees that you see around you.
Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada, very good. That you don't see. I'm looking at those that you see around you.
You, Mataji, and all the
Our
devotees
Guru
here.
Maharaj. Our
Your
Guru Maharaj.
They are the devotees in this assembly. They are the devotees of Krishna, right? And right. So, and then how about you enter the temple? What do you see? See some devotees of who all are in
We
the
see that
temple?
Everyone,
Let's
see
look at
the
that list
temple.
first.
we
Huh?
see the deities, Mataji.
Okay, but that's the Lord, right? Who else do you see?
Mhm.
Enter your temple. Who do you see in the temple?
Devotees, Mataji, Guru Maharaj,
Devotees.
so many devotees.
All the devotees serving the Lord.
Lord.
Somebody will be making a garland.
What else do you
Somebody
see?
will be cleaning the temple.
Maharaj and the deities?
Mataji, we see Srimati Radharani, who is the greatest devotee of the Lord too.
Hmm.
You see, that is the Lord. I'm not talking about the Lord now. And Archana, is that an old hand that is risen?
No, Mataji, I forgot to put it
It's
down.
an-
I'll do it.
it's an old
Yeah, I'll
one.
do it. Yeah, it's old one. I'll keep it
Okay,
down.
okay. Yeah. Do you see the priest? Is the priest a devotee of the Lord?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Right? Okay. So then what we say is that, okay, I'm supposed to serve the devotee of the Lord, so I will go and serve the priest. Right? Because it's such a glamorous role. You see that a whole arati is going on. The priest is up in the altar. He's making all these nice butras and he's offering the things to the Lord. He looks so beautiful, powerful, neat and clean. I'll serve the priest, right? He's a servant of God. He's a direct servant of the Lord. I'll go there because I am entitled to do that, right? But what does Prabhupada tell us? You serve the...
So the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant.
Right. How many times removed?
Dasan, 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 dasan.
How many times?
Dasan.
Five times?
Of servant, of servant, of servant.
5 times? 6 times? 10 times?
Unlimited times.
Yeah, millions of times removed, right? That's what they say, right? Millions of times. And when you try to do that, that is where our purification happens. And that's real seva that you do. So, so over here, what happens in the relationship between the devotee and the Lord is that what is devotional service? It's a loving service, right? What do you do as part of devotional service to the Lord, right? It's a loving service. You serve him. Cook nicely for him, wash him, clean him, put him to sleep, stitch clothes for him, make prasadam, talk about him, right? Write about him, like that, right? Sing about him. That's devotional service. Right? So the relationship between the devotee and the Lord is that of service. The devotee serves the Lord. So there's a servitude attitude inside all of us. Now, when the devotee does service to Krishna, Krishna gets very pleased and he gets very attached to his devotee. And Krishna wants to reciprocate. So Krishna now wants to serve the devotee. Because of all the service that they are doing, now he wants to give it back. So now the devotee has been massaging Krishna's feet with oil, nice chameli, good smelling chameli oil, giving a nice massage, right? Now Krishna wants to massage the devotee's feet. Now will the devotee allow that?
No.
No, Mataji.
No, right? So what pleases Krishna more is that when Krishna says that, okay, somebody else is massaging my devotee's feet. So his feet are being massaged
So dasan.
like that, right? So that is why we say you should be das, anudas, anudas, because that way you'll be very pleased, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at Indra, our mood, despite whatever Indra has been doing here and elsewhere, right, in the scriptures, we all know that you have to still consider him to be, a devotee of the Lord. He's a devotee. That should be the first qualification that comes in our mind, right? And then now that we see him doing all these kinds of activities, then we will say, okay, api chet suduracharo bhaste mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya. right? That even if they are doing Suduracharya, but if they are a devotee of the Lord, I will not still consider them to be sadhu, right? Let Krishna take care of it. I never do Vaishnava Prad. Let Krishna take care of that. And then I will just continue to do my service. And why are we asking you to say that? And in the beginning, why is it so difficult for us to digest this statement? That Sudurachar is doing not Durachar, Sudurachar, the worst of the behavior they are doing. And then it's like, I'm a delusion. I have lost faith in Krishna consciousness. I won't ever come to the temple. What exactly is this going on? It doesn't make any sense. I don't think this person is a devotee. These are so-called devotees. They're all bad. Right? So in the beginning, a neophyte devotee will think like that. But as you advance in your devotional service, and you get more intimate with the holy name of the Lord, and you understand the power of the holy name of the Lord and the purifying power, majorly of the Lord, of the holy name of the Lord, and the purifying nature of devotional service, then you will say that, oh, this guy seems to be doing something very abominable and bad and odd, but he's also doing devotional service. And because devotional service is going to purify him, so the same person, I don't care whatever he's doing here, but I can see his future is very bright and I can see him as a pure devotee in the future. I will not say anything to him like that, right? Who am I to punish a devotee? Right? Let Krishna take care of that. He can do it in a more, deft manner. So our mood should be like, okay, this is Indra. I will, still respect him. Yes, I observe he's doing Durachar, and that's a lesson for me not to do Durachar. I should not be going and stealing horses. Like that, right?
Right.
Yeah, so indeed, he's one of the most powerful assistants. So we read that. In order to make trouble and impede the performance of King Prithu's great sacrifice, King Indra has adopted some means that in future will destroy the clear path of religious life. And we can see that happening so abundantly in Kali Yuga. I draw your attention to this fact. If you oppose him any further, he will further misuse his power and introduce many other irreligious systems. Look at this. We never thought of this from this angle. Thought of it from this angle, did we? He's saying that if you oppose him any further, he will further misuse his power and introduce many other religious systems. Look at that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we never look at these type of consequences of our corrective actions. To our mind, the corrective action is like a punch, Indra is doing this, right? But what he's going to do is going to come with and do something even worse than what he had done. So it's a very different way of handling crime and punishment. Yeah. So then look at the statement here from Brahma. He's saying, let there be only 99 sacrificial performances for Maharaj Prithu. Lord Brahma concluded. Lord Brahma then turned towards Maharaj Prithu and informed him that since he was thoroughly aware of the path of liberation, what was the use in performing more sacrifices? Why are you doing that? These are material sacrifices. Number one, right? And so you stop at 99 nervous. Lord Brahma continued, let there be good fortune to both of you. You and King Indra are both part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you should not be angry with King Indra, who is non-different from you. My dear king, do not be agitated and anxious because your sacrifices have not been properly executed due to providential impediments. Kindly take my words with great respect. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. This is so important and such a powerful statement here. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement by God, something that he has arranged, don't feel sorry for that. Don't feel sorry why this is happening to me. Why am I in this situation? This is Krishna's will. Take it. And that gives you, that sweet surrender to Krishna gives you complete protection and complete power to be able to handle that situation. And our question in such situation always is, Krishna, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this situation that I am in right now? What am I supposed to learn? Give me the intelligence to learn. That is the prayer. It's a very bold prayer rather than saying, Krishna, save me, there's a crocodile on my leg, like that, right? Instead of saying that, tell me, what am I supposed to learn from this, right? Varshana Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, like you see here, the desire to complete the 100th one by Prithu Maharaj is there, that this desire is there. In this Kali Yuga, in these days, Mataji, parents always desire, and the children themselves also desire, that I must do this to achieve this. Like you see, they make a goal. Sometimes the goal is beyond their capacity also, but they want to achieve that just to defeat others. And Mataji, this is a rat race, and in the bargain, they are losing their character. And what should be advised to such children, Mataji? How should, on the basis of the Shastras, how to advise such children that look at this, these are the consequences. Why do you want so much money? A friend of mine, Mataji, she's very nice. She's a very good devotee. And her husband is, Mataji, he's working somewhere, and just to get more and more and more money, they were giving better package. And since last 8 years, Mataji is away from home. And yesterday she called me up. She told me that I'm feeling very lonely, and my youth is gone. And what will we do with that money when we are old? We will not need that money. And what are we earning it for? My children will be well settled. They are good educated. I mean, her elder son is gone already. Younger one is still in 12th. So Mataji, she says, Mataji, how to guide such people, Mataji?
Actually, this is a very nice point that she is in. It's her situation that she's feeling lonely, right? And so a slightly vulnerable position, and might be in a position to listen to Krishna Katha.
No, she is already, Mataji, a devotee, and she's doing Bhakti Shastri these days, and she's already studying a lot. Mataji listens also every day religiously. She listens to the lecture of.
Let me bring up a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam for that, if I remember that correctly. Yeah, that's the one. Athapi te dev padam bhuja dvaya prasad leshanugrihiта evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko pichiran vichinvan. So what does that mean? This is Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna after the Brahma Vimohan Leela. You see, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. And which is the verse in Bhagavad-gita that talks about Krishna's personality and understanding it perfectly and things like that? Krishna's birth, Krishna's activities, chapter 4, verse number 9.
Yes, Mataji. Janma divyam, karma divyam.
Janma karma chame
divyam.
Yo veti tatvataha tyakta deham punar janma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, right? So he's saying that one who understands my janm, which is transcendental, and karm, which are even more transcendental, right? So even to understand that, right? So how do you understand that? One is favored by a slight trace of the mercy of the Lord. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many, many years. So without any judgment or comments on the friend that you're talking about, but we have to understand that different people are in different stages of their development in the spiritual journey. And so one can continue to study the Vedas for many, many years. You could memorize the whole Bhagavad-gita. You can recite the whole Bhagavad-gita. You can pass all the Bhakti Shastri classes that you want to pass, right? But until and unless you don't have the slight trace of mercy of the Lord's lotus feet, you can't understand Krishna. You can't understand anything. You cannot even understand what is good for you and what is not good for you, right? So
the mercy of the Lord is
important. Without the mercy of the Lord, nothing happens. You can go and sit in all the examinations. And then, so the question is like, oh, fine. Now you're saying, I have to please Lord to get his mercy. And now you're saying that, in order to be able to serve Lord, I have to get his mercy. So it's a catch-22 situation, right? So there is a solution there, okay? So we are asking for mercy of Lord's lotus feet. Now, who are there on Lord's lotus feet, if you were to imagine Lord's lotus feet?
Tulsi.
Okay. Who's there and Lord's, who takes the shelter of Lord's lotus feet?
Devotees.
Devotees of the Lord.
Devotees.
Right? Yeah. Right? So
Lakshmi is always serving the lotus feet.
Exactly. So because they are at the lotus feet of the Lord, so the only way that they can get the mercy, and the very interesting story is from the Srimad Bhagavatam again, and that is of Narada. While he's reciting his life story, right? His previous birth. So what was Narada in his previous birth? He was a Brahmana?
He was a maid servant's son.
So he was a Brahmana? What was he by birth?
Shudra.
Shudra, yeah. Why are you hesitating? He's a Shudra, right? We all are Shudras. So it's not that we're calling him any low. So he was, so his mother, and it was Chaturmasya, right? Chaturmas started a few days ago. The 4 months, rainy season, when people would not go from here to there. The sannyasis would assemble in one place, and then they would have Matchitta Madgata Prana. They would sit and discuss Krishna Katha. And so this maid servant didn't have a husband, had this son, Narad, 5 years old. And the mother used to tell him and encourage him, Uchishta Bhojana, whatever they have left, the remnants, you eat it, you eat it, you eat it. And then he used to go there, take their permission. And Narad tells that in the Bhagavatam, right? And first canto, 5th chapter, I think 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th, those chapters. So he says the mother used to say that, but then he used to first take their permission and, take the remnants to do the dishes. He was kind of like the errand boy. And then they were very pleased with him. And they told him, transcendental truths. And then later on, to make him progress even faster in his devotional service, what did Krishna arrange? Which is heart-wrenching. His mother passed away. Exactly. His mother passes away, right? So even the last vestige of attachment was removed. And then this 5-year-old boy goes, and then he spends his life. And in the next life, he gets he becomes Narada. And there's a long time gap between this life and that life, just so that we all understand how big we are on this time scale, how big the time scale is. So when Narad Muni is roaming as a 5-year-old boy, and that's when this whole world finishes, devastation is there, and everybody gets sucked into the womb of Mahavishnu. And then in the next exhalation, which is such a big span of time, right? 100 years of Brahma, then he's born again, right? So according to the time scales that we talk about in our Shastras, 5 minutes is nothing. 1 minute is nothing. It's just nothing like that. So he got the mercy. So that is why people are always in the mood to serve. Serving is so important. And that's also one of the dangers of studying too much, is that it gets to the head, that I can recite this, I can recite that. This is a very interesting thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to have kirtan sessions in his home. And he would invite only his close associates, not in his home, Shiva Sangat, in Shivas Pandit's home. And so he would, they would close the doors, and only very intimate and pure devotees would be inside, and they would sing kirtan. Whole night they used to do this kirtan. And so one day there was one of the associates brought in another person. And so, and they was, they were singing, and then Mahaprabhu immediately said that, I'm not getting that rasa, that the taste, or, that something is wrong, right? He kept on asking something wrong. So, is there somebody new who has joined us today? And they were like, yeah, no, but I don't think that should matter. This is just brahmachari over here, and all that he does is drink milk. So we thought that he's, qualified to come and attend your services, but when he was like, throw him out, And then he made such a profound statement. He says, children also drink only milk. That doesn't mean that they are devotees. A child of a dacoit will also drink only milk in the beginning, right? So that doesn't make them a devotee of the Lord. So this devotional service, emphasis is on seva. Do the seva, whichever way. And das, anu, dasa. That is the mood in which we should serve, right? Which is serve. So since she approached you, which was a very wise thing for her to do, what you can do is you can pray for her, right? So you can do that. I mean, because she's a devotee, she's beyond the give her the prasadam kind of a routine that we do, right? So she's beyond all that. So now prayers. If she ever listens to you, emphasize the importance of holy name of the Lord, right? So a devotee never feels lonely, a pure devotee of the Lord. Why? Because dil ke aine mein hai tasveere yaar, jab ji chaha gardan jhukai aur dekh li, right? Translation for those who don't understand Hindi is that, in the mirror of my mind is the picture of my beloved, which is Krishna. And so whenever I feel like it, I just have to bend my neck and I have to just see it there. So Krishna is that close to you. So if you are in that mood, and I just shared, somebody shared this thing, this picture, or I saw it somewhere. It was very beautiful. It was a picture of Krishna. And on the top, it was said that if you form a relationship with Krishna, you will never get hurt. Never get hurt, yes. Right? Because one of the things that also happens to ladies is that the kids grow up and then they form their own nest and they fly away and then they don't turn back, even though they might want to turn around and come back. They are so busy with their own mess of a life, right? Material mess, I mean. And so they don't come back. So the hurt is there, right? But if you give your heart, and that's why they say that your heart is like a glass bowl, right? It's very fragile. It will shatter to pieces if somebody, pushes it, breaks it like that, right? So you have to keep it very carefully so that it doesn't break, right? That's why we advise our daughters, like, you don't go after every man, they will break your heart, right? So you have to keep the heart in a very safe place. And so that means that, that place should be such that even if an earthquake comes, this should not shake. Right. I mean, I remember long time, decades ago, when I used to watch movies, there's a movie called Shraddha-devi, and it was, eulogizing drinking, which is bad. Anyway, so there was a hero over there and he had this glass of wine or whatever he was having, whiskey. So he had that, and then there was some fight. Somebody comes to fight him, if I remember that correctly. And then he's a hero, right? He can fight with one hand and he pushes off all the villains there. And then in the end, he just says, now, did you see this glass? Not a drop fell out of this, right? So you need to be somebody like that. You have to take the help of somebody like that, that if you give your heart to that person, it won't drop and break because the hands were tired. So if you try to look around here and say, like, who can hold it? Can Mike Tyson hold my heart? Well, maybe 30 years ago, we would have thought he was so healthy and so powerful. But then you look at him 30 decades later, like all diseases like that. So when you extrapolate, you find that there is only one person who can hold your heart. And who's that?
Krishna.
Krishna, yes, exactly. You didn't have to think so long for that, right? So Krishna, so that's why we say you invest all your relationship in Krishna. So when your relationship is in Krishna and your focus is on Krishna, it doesn't matter who's coming, who's going, who's doing or not doing. Am I in this body or that body? Am I in heaven or am I in hell? Right? Swarg narkeshu api tulyartha darshinaha. Right? So devotee to the Lord, whether it is Swarg or whether it is Nark, sees both of them equally. Api tulyartha, they are same. If you weigh them, they are same. Like that. So So that is there. There's that relationship, that focus. And so when we start feeling lonely, this means that we have got time to think that we are lonely. This means that our mind is idle to be able to place that thought there, right? So that factory is running and producing garbage. So we have to make sure that we make the factory produce better things. And what will make you think about Krishna? It is seva. Nothing else will make you think about Krishna. If you just sit down and think, I'm going to think about the glories of Krishna, I'm going to imagine how beautiful his flute looks, and how many holes are there in his flute, and how many types of flutes does he have, right? Because he has a flute for his cowherd boyfriends, and he has a flute for the cows, and there's Vamshuli, there is Bansuri, one for the gopis, like that. You can sit here and you can think, and after some time, you'll say Bansuri, and then your mind will say, okay, Bansuri comes from bamboo. And then you'll say, yeah, somebody told me that agarbatti also has bamboo, and, that gives you cancer. And then you're like, yeah, somebody said that that is why, in India, when people die, they put you on the bamboo rods. But when you go to Smashan, they don't put the bamboo rods in the fire because the fumes that come out cause cancer. So I like, that's very wonderful thing. Yeah, cancer has become very rampant these days. And you know what? Some of the makeup that you use has got foundation. And then you know what? That Mrs. Single who lives right next to my home, she uses a lot of makeup. And that's it. Now the mind has gone in a totally different direction. From thinking about the Bansuli of Krishna, it has gone to Mrs. Single. And I didn't mean Parul. So like that. So it is only when you have got seva and lot of seva that, all your free time will just go into how can I do this seva? Oh my goodness, I have got to do this. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do this. I have no time even to fight, even to observe what others are doing or what others are not doing. If somebody is performing Ashwamedha Yajna, 100-hour sacrifices, which in our life will translate to, oh, I'm chanting only 16, and, Varshana is chanting 20, and Venugita chants 32, and, that is our Ashwamedha Yajna. Because in this yuga, there's only one yajna, right? Nam Sankirtan. You take the names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? So we can pray to the devotees and they'll continue. And also see that whatever is going through in your friend's life, that loneliness that she's feeling, could make her turn even more ardently towards Krishna. And she might realize the futility of this. And actually, in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, there is an interesting story here. Let me search. Oh, why is it in 23? Should not be in 23. Okay. Yeah, the story of Pingala. Okay, it's a short story. I'll just bring it over here. It tells you something very nice. There was once a prostitute named Pingala in the city of Videha. And from her, so there's this person who's telling how he has 24 spiritual masters who teach him certain things. And those are birds that he learned something from the mountain, from the water, so many things from the Ajgar, Python, and so on and so forth. But anyway, so he also learned something from Pingala, the prostitute. So there was once a prostitute named Pingala in the city of Videha. And from her, the Avadhuta learned another lesson. One day, she dressed herself in very attractive clothing and ornaments and was waiting from sunset until midnight for a customer. She waited in great anticipation, but as the time passed, her mind became very uneasy. No man came to see her, and in disgust, she finally became renounced, giving up her hankering for the arrival of a suitor. Thereafter, she engaged herself in thinking only of the Supreme Lord Hari, and her mind achieved the supreme platform of peace. The instruction received from her is that hopes for sense gratification are the root cause of all sufferings. Therefore, only one who is given up such hankering can fix himself in meditation upon the personality of Godhead and achieve transcendental peace. I rest my case. What more do we need to know, right? That right? Our verse from today is also saying, Nirashihi, don't focus on, enjoying and owning things. And only by focusing on the Lord do you get the Lord. And so very interesting thing that we are learning in this chapter that we're reading about Prithu Maharaj, and that is he did 99 sacrifices. Just to cut a long story short here, he conducts those 99 sacrifices, and then Indra comes and tries to spoil the 100th, and then Brahma comes and says that don't attempt to complete and do the 100th sacrifice. And what was the reason that Brahma gave? Why should Prithu stop and not do the 100th sacrifice? Very nice example, very nice reason he gave.
He said that don't kill him. He is a devotee of the Lord, and you see, if you do this, he will do more offenses, and it is better, and it will be a bad example for the coming generations. So it is better if you stop this.
Yeah. So he talked about two things. He talked about that he's as good as the personality of Godhead. And second is that if you continue this thing, then he will also continue to do even worse things than what he's doing right now.
Things.
Like that. Right? So then he doesn't do it. He concludes the sacrifice there at the 99th. And then Lord Vishnu comes to sacrifice. So here's the interesting thing, that because he gave up something in the favor of the Lord, because what was Indra doing? Indra was propagating atheism, right? He was propagating the fact that you can be, a sannyasi in the disguise and fake yourself as a sannyasi. He was doing a lot of harm to the religious principles, right? He was doing all that. And so in favor of that, in favor of establishing Krishna's name and not helping establish other things like what Indra was doing, and by sacrificing his, the score of 100, is that Prithu Maharaj pleased Krishna even more. So when we give up these kind of desires that we have for our own sense gratification, right? It was for his own sense gratification. What has Krishna got to benefit from? Like whether you are ruling this world or you're ruling just one small village. Like that, right? So that's the main thing that verse is saying, that you give up. And so sometimes you're not giving it up. So Krishna will make it so miserable for you. So life will become so miserable for you that then you will turn to Krishna. And we see that in some of the stories that, the famous Satyanarayana Katha, I was very impressed when I heard it in my young age. I was also very astonished at how people can make promises to the Lord and not make it, till I grew myself an adult and realized how easy it is to make promises to the Lord and not fulfill them. I was doing it myself. So whenever you have that good fortune that Krishna returns to your life in some way, shape, or form, then embrace him and don't let him go, because he's come back again to your life. And in order to do that, he might do certain hard things to you. Your minds might get boggled, like Pingala got so boggled. I'm this beautiful prostitute. How come not a single man? And from, sunset to midnight or dusk or whatever she was roaming, she got so frustrated. So sometimes frustration is good. Unless we are not frustrated from this material world. Tvam akinchana gochara, Kunti Maharani says that, only when you are materially exhausted, then you will turn to Lord. Otherwise, we don't. Otherwise, we think we are God. Because material things give us power, right, to do that. And so also one of the things that today's verse said was that, we should do only that as much as is required for us. Right? As much as is required for us. That's all. And not more. And I told you the story of the man, right? Who was told that, as much land as you want. It's from a Russian tale. How much land does a man need? It's a very famous story. You can go and read it at leisure on the internet. And just to narrate that story in a short way, that this man was allowed that as much as you will be given as much of the land as you can cover by running between morning and sunset. but you have to go there and then come back. So if you go forward 2 miles, then all that will be yours. But you have to come back that 2 miles also before the sun sets. Otherwise, you will lose everything. And so this man starts running, and every like, let me run a little bit more. Let me run a little bit more. And then he, when time the sun starts to set, he's like, oh my goodness, the sun is now setting. And then he starts to come back full, throttle. He's running back. There's foam coming out of his mouth. He falls down, he gets up again. And then just before he's about to reach the finishing line or the starting line, in this case, he falls down and he dies. And what do people do? They dig up a hole, 6 feet, and then they put him inside. How much land does a man need? So how much do we need is also very important. And the Srimad Bhagavatam has got that story of Dhruva Maharaj, who practiced austerities for 6 months. And what was he living on? First month, he lived on berries only, right? Later on, just some grass. Then after that, water. After that, air. And after that, nothing, right? And after that, he became so powerful that other planets started to get affected by him. So we might think that I need that extra paratha, I need that extra this, I need this and this and that. But Dhruva Maharaj just told you that, even without food, you can live for some time. Not that I'm recommending, because we are not Dhruva Maharaj. This is Kali Yuga. Our bodies are different from the bodies in Satyuga, where that Dhruva Maharaj's pastime happened. But these are some of the things to keep in mind. Always reckon and see, how much do I really need? There is enough for every man's need, but not enough for a single man's greed. Like one single person's greed. It's infinite there. Farshana, is that an old hand? Archana, is that an old hand?
Old. Sorry.
Hands, okay. All right. So we have Hare Krishna. Oh, who's the
Archana?
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji. I wanted to ask another question. So.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
So here in this, the chapter which we read today, Prathu Maharaj, so here, Mataji, since we are talking about we should be, we should be free from material desires, but Indra, he is also pure devotee of the Lord, and because a pure devotee is also free from material desire because he is beyond the modes of material nature, then how come this, desire came in his heart to,
right.
Yes, I was just wondering, how does this happen?
Right. We have to be careful about the use of the word devotee and the use of the word pure devotees. Demigods are devotees of the Lord. They're not necessarily pure. And so there are some stresses, there are some desires still in their hearts. One of the desires is to manage and govern, right? For example, suppose I am working here as a manager, right? What would be the next step for me? Maybe a director, maybe a vice president, maybe a CEO, right? And then where does it end? You rule this whole earth, right? You own all the companies on this earth, and that's it. But the desires, do you think they will finish? No. I want more power. Right? There are 1 million people reporting me. I want more people. I want to govern this. I want to govern the way the wind blows. I want to govern the way the water flows. All right, then become a demigod. Right? So I am a devotee, but I have desire. That's why this verse is nirashihi. Because the moment you have these desires, they are a killer of devotional service. So anyabhalashita shunyam jnana karmadinavritam, right? Having said that, one thing also to remember is that if Indra is a devotee, if he has got desires, that's fine. But then he's sometimes doing some very extreme things, right? And those, Prasad Swami Maharaj tells us that he is acting, he's playing a part so that we can learn. So that we can learn from that.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Sutapa Mataji. Yeah, see you later.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. See you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Such a wonderful
Welcome.
class. And see you on Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So Archana, it's not very straightforward. It's not black and white. When we see things around us and how things are happening, there is a deeper reason for how things happen that way. And so that is why we are told, and we are repeatedly told, to inculcate and develop humility in ourselves. And I realize that Asta is here. Welcome, Asta. I didn't realize you were there.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I joined after very long.
So yeah.
Okay.
For
no
today,
problem.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Yeah, good. Yeah. My dashboard only shows a few people, so when you join, I'm not able to see them till I push. Yeah. All right. So we are at the top of the hour, 2 minutes over. Any last thoughts? Hey, Sadhana Mataji is also here. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Sorry, I was a bit late.
No problems at all. Yeah. Any thoughts? Any takeaway from today's class? Whatever you read, anything that stuck your mind, anything you didn't like, anything you liked from our Shastras?
Hare Krishna Mataji, very nice class. That word nirs. What is the first word?
Nirashihi.
Nirashi. Yeah. That to take away, and the question which was asked and the answer you provided was excellent. So many takeaway points from there. Thank you, Mataji,
Yeah,
for
we are
such
blessed.
a nice explanation.
Right. We are so blessed. I mean, I get all this from the Shastras, from Prabhupada books. So we are indeed so very blessed that we have Prabhupada who translated that, and, his disciples and their disciples, how much they spend their time in spreading Krishna Katha and, adding more and expanding more, and so that we can relish Krishna Katha there. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
Sadhana Mataji, are you raising a hand?
Yeah, Mataji, I was just going to say, I always like the stories in the Puranas because, like, you have an example of a young, simple boy who can get bhakti so quickly, like Narada Muni, and yet you have these very, saintly but kingly personalities like King Prithu who do so much, and then bhakti is really in that very simplicity as well. And I just always find that more attractive than anything else, so.
That's true. Yeah. And it's integrated, it's complicated. It's not mathematics that I can say I did this, and this. Hence, there's the kripa. The kripa factor is amazing. The empowerment, the mercy that comes from the Lord, and it can go and hit anybody or shower anybody. Yeah, very right. And that is what makes it so amazing. And that's why, like when you are reading about Krishna, or even when you see certain situations, and when you're totally dependent on Krishna, you're kind of in a happy anticipation. You're looking at, how if you see two wrestlers fighting, and so you're saying, okay, now let me see what his next move is going to be. How he's going to conquer that? Or two people playing chess, what is he going to do? Like that. And so how is Krishna going to solve this problem that has come in my life? Because Krishna is going to solve my problem. That's what the mood was there of the Gwalas, right? This is Agasura. Is it a snake or is it a mountain? We don't care. Let's get inside. Krishna will take it. It's the epitome of faith on the Lord. We don't do that. Even if somebody gives us a printed thing, you go there, nothing's going to happen. But we will hesitate. Yeah. So it depends on the level of faith that we have, and it makes life then so enjoyable, and even the small things, and even a vipada will become so enjoyable as Kunti Maharani enjoys it. Right? She says, yeah, give me all these bad things, and then because I get to enjoy. Yeah. Like that. Good. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll call it a day here today on this. We'll meet again on Sunday at usual, on our usual timing, which is 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you for joining, and Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Gopremanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Mataji. Thank you so much for this amazing class, Mataji.
Thank you.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
For everything.
Hari Bol. Namaste. Happy to see you.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Thank you so much, those of you who are joining us on the Facebook. I'm going to end the meeting.